Nancy Harms is one of the most fascinating performers I've ever known. Great musician and a wonderful singing actor, jazz performer, interpreter. She really does everything, but it's not in a manner of skipping from one thing to another to another. She's all of those things all at once. Like any singer, she alters her approach depending on the material, but she doesn't alter who she is. She is this incredibly charismatic performer who's got marvelous chops.
I was first struck by Nancy's amazing ability to deliver a ballad, to sing a ballad. She has like a real gift for delivering a melody and making it emotional and letting her personality shine through whatever she's singing.
It's a little bit, though, of the art which conceals art. She doesn't push it at you and say, I'm an artist. It's a simple approach. It's a delicate approach. It's perfect, so perfect for the Duke Ellington material, I think, and the approach that she's taking with it. Because the elegance that's personified and in certain ways when we think of Duke Ellington is personified in Nancy, this gorgeous creature who is stately and glamorous in an unpretentious way.
Trying to pretend this mood will never end.
Well, Duke Ellington is so intriguing because he had such a stateliness and such an elegance about him, but yet there's also this seductive side, this charm, this overwhelming charm that sometimes you don't find in the person who's that elegant.
Duke Ellington is one of the foremost jazz figures in the history of the music, one of the foremost musical figures in our country.
For me, Duke Ellington is really remarkable for the way that he seems to marry opposites together. His music is at the same time sophisticated, but kind of dirty and down home. It's upper class and yet it's lower class. It's complex and yet the melodies are simple and singable and memorable. So he seems to manage to take these things that seem to be polar opposites and unify them together into these songs that are really unforgettable.
Well, to me, Duke Ellington's probably one of the greatest songwriters of all time.
A lot of the music from the 20s, 30s, 40s that he wrote we're still playing today because it's relevant music.
And he also had this fascination with color that I found really, really intriguing. Synesthesia, I think is what it's called. And he would see colors around people. So his world, if you try to imagine what his world would look like, certain people would invoke something and he would see some red around them or some blue. And he saw that with music too, so it's fun to think about, especially when listening to his music, how he would hear that and experience that, the different colors of all the notes and what it created together, if it kind of became one color or if it was still a bunch of separate colors, if it was sort of like a moving painting. And that was very intriguing to me. All these things combined make him quite a fascinating man. I used the song Mood Indigo in my last CD, Dreams in Apartments. And when I was doing this gig in Copenhagen, that was like a month-long gig, I got to introduce the song night after night. And you sometimes try to get really creative with how you're introducing it because it's night after night. And I was really becoming more and more intrigued by introducing Mood Indigo. And indigo is actually a very compelling color to me. And that he didn't just choose to say this is blue, but indigo. Because indigo has is so deep and mysterious, and there's like a red involved in there, right? And red is such a passionate color. And so this was all just rolling around in my head night after night when I was thinking about introducing this song. So Arne Fogel and I decided we were going to make a show, and I put it on at the Metropolitan Room in New York City, and it went over so well, and it just, something felt so right.
And the thing with Nancy that's important is that she always takes a certain special look at something. It's not enough for her to just say, okay, let's reel out all the Duke Ellington standards or classics. She wants to take a different sort of a perspective.
I actually had a different CD project in mind, more similar to what I have recorded before. We were working on original tunes, and then we had some other standards, and they're more based on like a theme of something that's happened in my life that's really meant something, so more autobiographical. This one is not directly, but there's so much in the songs we chose, and the moods of it, and the colors of it, and the elegance of Ellington that I really am drawn to in music. So it was just like this kind of magnet from a distance that was slowly over time was just waiting for me to kind of realize the pull.
His catalog is so remarkable in its expansiveness. You can do so many things with it. It allows you to explore and be yourself through the Ellington music. And plus, everybody loves it.
So the show we did of Ellington music at the Metropolitan Room was called Ellington at Night. We chose that because we started to see the pattern of all these beautiful expressions of humanity, like different emotions in different settings and activities that happen at nighttime that are expressed in Duke's music. And that's what I love that too, that not only does he have these kind of flirtatious, vibes, but also there's the other side. There's something about the night that's very honest, right? Like there's a lot of isolation and but there's also great joy and romance. So things are heightened.
He has an image that is so appealing, to artists, to writers, to people who study the music, and to people who want to go out for a night of sophistication or a night of with a special glow to it or a certain kind of elegance to it. They know that Ellington's music is going to provide that. You combine it with Nancy, you have something really, really unique then.
She took my man away. She ain't gonna bring him back.
Nancy Harms is one of the best team builders. And she has got a great instinct she's a great instinct for so many things. One of them is gathering the right people. This is the third album that I've worked on with her, the second which we've co-produced. And one of the great things about her is that she goes on feel in many ways, but she's never wrong.
And we also had co-collaborator Jeremy Siskind, the pianist of that show, is also on this album. But he did all the arranging. He was the musical director, and I have worked with him so many times, so I really trust him, and we have a great communication together musically. And that was really a joy to get to work with someone that knows my singing so well, and that I can work really closely with in sculpting things to suit my singing.
So Nancy and I have a really deep connection from probably playing at least 100 shows together. So it's great to be able to feed that into this setting where we're playing more traditional styles, and yet we do have this really strong connection musically where we both feel like we can really rely on each other.
Jeremy's so many superlatives. He's a brilliant piano player, brilliant performer, and a marvelous, original, and sensitive arranger. And he and Nancy have a very sympathetic thing going now. They are very sensitive to each other, and they form a great team in and of themselves.
And Danton and I have been playing together for a long time, maybe one of the longest playing relationships I've had with a musician in New York City. And he's so thoughtful and he just delivers beautifully.
Danton Boller on bass, who is a fellow who she's worked with for quite a while. He's reliable, he's an incredible musician, he's a great ear and a great listener, and a great, he shares his opinions as she looks to him for a lot of information and feedback, and he's perfect for all of that. Great bass player, of course.
Now that I've played for some years, it's nice to get into the studio and not feel nervous about things, but try to be musical and just always try to make musical statements.
Danton, we're both from Los Angeles, so we go way back. And we both played in Roy Hargrove's group for a hot minute. And he's a very talented bass player. And I don't get to play with him that often as I used to, as I would like, but this is a good chance, sort of a reunion of sorts, for us to play together on this project.
And this is the first time I've worked with Willie. Danton, the bass player, had worked with him quite a bit and recommended him because he knows what I'm really looking for. A lot of it is how lovely it is to work with them, how professional they are, how thoughtful they are. And Willie is that. I mean, he's a consummate professional. And I mean, it's just got such a solid groove, and it's this wonderful, tasty, laid-back thing, and then perfectly tight when it needs to be.
It's such a thrill for me to play with Willie, because I remember when I was a high schooler going and listening to him at jazz clubs, play with Roy Hargrove and some other people, and you know, he's been one of my favorite drummers. He's one of everybody's favorite drummers for a long time, so it's a total thrill to have him on the project.
Not only is he one of the great drummers of our generation alive today, playing jazz, he's been a great friend of mine for years.
It's been a great experience for me to listen to him on these sessions because he just kills. He's a great player, great musician, wonderful guy to work with. And so she goes on her way and develops a team of players and participants based on what she thinks this project should sound like. And she inevitably and invariably picks the right people.
You know, it was just a joy to come to the studio and know that they were going to be so professional and that they had such an ear for listening, and they didn't want to overpower something. They wanted what they played to be best for the music. And a lot of people say that, I think, but they really played that way and did that. And I just think that's such a beautiful thing that can be made, that kind of listening and that kind of give and take, you know.
So Nancy and I actually came to the realization almost at the same time that a couple of the tunes could use a string quartet. It was almost uncanny. We both kind of looked at each other and said, string quartet. And we happen to know this fabulous string quartet called the Public Quartet. A friend of mine from college named Curtis Stewart is the violinist for the quartet. And so we were really thrilled to be able to engage them, and they kind of specialize in doing jazz collaborative projects and kind of improvising in popular genres. So they were a perfect fit, and they did such a great job reading the music.
And they really did a beautiful job. And I thought it would be fantastic to add that lusciousness, right? Because we were talking about the lusciousness of night that is so apparent in Ellington's music, and to add those string quartet who kind of give it a nice dreamy aesthetic, and they really did a beautiful job.
We live and learn, we find every end.
So it's a lot of family feel to it for me too. There's a lot of things that a lot of people's great qualities coming together to complement one another.
People who are going to want to hear the familiar, they're going to have that. People who are going to want to hear something that they weren't expecting, either by way of the material itself or the way that Nancy and Jeremy have cast the material. they're going to get something special and something unique as well. So it's that old cliche about something for everybody.
And Nancy's a really special singer and musician because she really connects to the lyrics and the story of the tune and really prioritizes that. So as an arranger, we're really working off of what is the tune trying to say, and then how can we portray that musically. Whereas I feel like other projects I've done and other people work first, what's the musical content and how can we manipulate that or turn that into something that fits our style. And that's a good approach too, but this is really about the songs and how can we make these songs, these lyrics, these narratives come out the most clearly through music.
People are going to be so delighted with all the nuance that she brings to these songs. Every moment has something special to be heard in her voice, in her styling, in her interpretation, because she does not rely on the cliche. She is the most unique, the most unto herself woman I know.
We often think about Ellington as this real musical genius, which he absolutely was, but so many of his songs are so narrative, they're so rich with real meaning. Nancy sometimes talks about that tune, Mood Indigo, that he won't just settle for your regular blue. For him, it's indigo. Everything's a little bit richer. And what we're hoping to do in this project is bring out some of that richness in his music, particularly in terms of the story, the depth of the words, as well as just having a bunch of great players to do an Ellington project. So we're really excited for everybody to hear it.
When you get this album, you're going to hear something every second that's going to delight you.
So that's what this album is about. These Ellington songs and how they express the variety and the lusciousness and the darkness and the twinkle of things that happen at night.
My prelude to a kiss. Haunting, an attraction I can't name, like the burning cool of a blue flame. There in the stars, there in the velvet sky, that's where we are. Or maybe that's where we should be.